Hi, I'm Curious Vedant, and welcome to season 3 of my podcast. Today, my guest is Padma Rangan, a banker with over 30 years of experience. She currently works for HSBC Bank as Hyderabad site leader for digital operations, focusing on automation initiatives. She has created several technical training workshops, most popular among them being Money Matters, a workshop for basic financial awareness. Hello, Padma. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, Vedant. Wonderful to be on your show. Just like your show name, I was also very curious to know how you record these shows and what happens behind the scenes. So, thank you for inviting me. So, I'm getting a first hand experience of how Curious Vedant happens. So, thank you for that.
You're welcome. The process is very fun.
Wonderful. I also wanted to tell you among the future skills that we are looking for maybe in the next few years, because with so much technology innovation happening, among the top 5 is curiosity. And so interesting that you have that as your first name. So you're already future ready, Vedant.
Thank you. So, Padma, I'm curious to know, how did human beings think of money?
That's a great way to start our Money Matters, Vedant. It's about money matters, and money matters to all, right? Does it matter to you?
Yes.
It matters to everyone. So let's get to know a bit about the story of money. Much before money came into usage, we used to have something called barter system. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
No, you know what barter meant? Barter was you exchange goods for goods. So there was no money with anyone. And if I wanted grains and you want cattle, then we exchange. It's goods for goods. I give you some grains and you give me some cattle, or I give you some milk and you give me some sugar. So people used to exchange goods. There was no concept of money, and this was happening for quite some time, where people were exchanging their requirements. And as people and societies and needs evolved, so they realized that their needs are no longer just goods. They also needed some services, right? It's not just food or milk or cattle. And that's when the concept of value for money came. It's about how do I get something other than exchange of goods. That is when they started attaching the concept of value for goods and services. Then metal came into being. They started making coins with copper, gold, silver, nickel, all kinds of metals, and started, okay, the most precious item, they will give you gold coin. Something not so expensive, I can give you metal. So coins were in vogue for a long time. And then even that became difficult, right? Carrying huge sums of money and attaching value. Who decides what costs how much, and how do we know what is the cost of the items that they need? And that's when, as things started evolving and more new things came into being, China is said to be the first country to have introduced paper money. So that's the story of money, from barter to banknotes. So the whole purpose is money started as they wanted to have something standard as a medium of exchange, right? So that the cost of cattle may not be the same as the cost of grain. The cost of milk may not be the same as sugar or anything else that they needed if they wanted services. So everything doesn't cost the same. That's when, just because they wanted a standard medium of exchange and value, the concept of money came into being. So over a period from barter, we came to money. Interestingly, the word cash originally meant money box.
Yeah, even I think the barter system makes no sense. Money is way more efficient. What is a bank and how did it come about?
Okay, we just spoke about the concept of money, right? How money came from barter. People realized their need. As their life and livelihood and needs evolved, it became difficult for people, merchants, and money lenders to keep track of all the items they were exchanging, keeping track of all the values, what it costs, who has to give how much money to whom. And it became like a huge activity, right? That people found it very difficult to keep track of all the exchanges, transactions, and values. And that's when the institution of banking came into being. You know, the bank, the name came from the Italian word meaning banco, which means actually literally means a bench. It means a bench where across a bench people used to uh, talk about transactions and say, okay, I need this. How much does it cost? I want, I want a shawl. I want a sweater. I want a dress for my child. I want gold. I want something else. So across the bench, people used to discuss and talk to these merchants or money lenders. Originally, as they were called, all bankers were called money lenders originally. And that's how the name bank came. The very first bank came from Europe in some time around 1472. There are, of course, others who claim, but the recorded one is from Italy. So the purpose of the bank is to safe keep your money. You know, before banks came, people didn't know how to where to keep that money. They used to hide it in pots. They used to hide it in wells. They used to hide it under their ceiling to keep it safe, right, from robbers or thefts or pests or natural disasters or anything to keep, because it was coins, they could keep it safe, you know. So they used to hide it in all kinds of places, and then they found bank to be a safe place. That was the initial intent, was to keep the money safe and to also record all the transactions and values to help people exchange the goods and services that they actually needed. That was the purpose of a bank. So any bank broadly does two kinds of work. It accepts deposits. So you can, if you are Vedant, you can put your money in the bank for them to keep it safe. And if I need money, the bank also lends. I can borrow money or I can deposit money. Those are the two main jobs of a bank: keep other people's money safe and lend it to people who need it. Okay, and for both these activities, then there's an important concept called interest. So if you deposit money with the bank will pay you some interest. But if you borrow it from them, you have to pay them interest. So everything is about interest on that money.
Yeah, that was. But how do you trust a bank? How can you make sure the bank doesn't steal your money?
That's a very good question and always worth asking, you know. So banking generally in most countries is a highly regulated industry worldwide. All banks in the world are members of the central bank of that country. So the central bank is like a regulator, you know, it makes all the rules for the banks, and every bank, in order to do business, so banks cannot work by themselves, right? So there are several banks in the countries, and each of them do business with each other. So they cannot, in order to do business, they have to be members of this central bank, and this central bank is like the regulator. It makes all the rules for the bank. It tells them how they have to lend, how they have to pay people, how to protect people's money, how to protect people's money against fraud, how to keep the transactions clean and transparent. So that's the job of the regulator. So every bank has to be a member of this network, and they have to mandatorily follow this rules in order to do business. In order for people to trust and keep their money or borrow money, all the banks have to be part of this network. So if they don't comply with the rules set by the central bank, you know what happens? They charge them huge penalty. They have to pay huge fines and even loss of banking license. So, because of these strong systems and regulation, most banks actually comply, and it's important also for banks to follow these rules because all the country's economic activity depends on how trustworthy their banks are. So the governments and regulators all ensure that banks don't cheat people, and they actually take care of the people's money safely. So it's important. If a bank collapses, the health or the country also collapses, because everything runs on money, right? We are no longer in the barter system. We all need money for all activities in the country, right? For everything, you need money. So it's very, very important that banks actually keep the trust of the people. Of course, there are rogue banks, you must have heard, but they are very few, and they are penalized very heavily, and they are taken off the banking license. So overall, it's a highly regulated industry, which makes even the employees, the employees like us working in banks, we have lot of regulatory exams to do, and we have a lot of responsibility to protect our customer information, data protection. So it's all in the regulatory environment, which makes it trustworthy. I hope you will trust a bank now.
I will. And this central bank, that's the federal bank, right? The one which
Yeah.
all the money notes.
Yes, that's called Reserve Bank, Federal Bank, Central Bank. In each country, it's called differently, but the function is the same. All the banks work with it and follow the rules set by the bank.
So basically, they're the banks for the banks. What is the difference between a debit card and a credit card?
Oh, that's a good one. Do you have a card?
Yes, a prepaid debit card.
Wow. So have you used it?
Lots of times.
Really? So
Huh?
it's a good question to discuss then. We spoke about the advent of money, right? How it started from barter, it came to coin, then it came to paper money. Even paper money became like it's one of the most evolving industry, I would say, banking. So uh, the frequent new products and requirements as technology changes, banking is fast changing industry. So they found even carrying paper money to be difficult and not so safe. If you're traveling or if you're going everywhere, you don't want to carry all your money with you, right? It's not safe to carry. Would you want to carry all your money with you wherever you go?
No.
So it's not so safe, right? Carrying all the notes with you. And that's when the concept of plastic money came. So both debit and credit cards are actually plastic money. So your money is safe in the bank, and against that money, you get this debit or credit card, which is just plastic money linked to your account. So you no longer need to carry your money wherever you go. Instead, you can use these cards, which act like your real money. So basic difference is the debit card allows you to use your own money. If you have an account in your bank and there is money deposited in that, against that, suppose you have $100 in your bank account, you get a debit card. You can use whatever balance is there in your account. Okay, that can be used wherever you go. You can swipe that give that card, and instead of giving real money, you can give that plastic money. And if you're going using a credit card, actually the bank, you don't have any account or balance. You need not have. The bank is actually saying you're using the bank's money to buy things, and after a point, after a month or so, the bank will send you a bill, okay, and say, Vedant, you have used this credit card in Coffee Day, you have used it in McDonald's, you have used it. This is your bill. Please pay it. And then on the due date, you pay. The credit card is like you're taking the bank is giving you a credit or a loan to use the money. Whereas in a debit card, you already have that money in your account and you are using that. So every time you use a debit card, the balance, if you have $100 and you have used $10 at Starbucks, they pay that money and your balance becomes 90. So you can use your debit card for $90. If you use it one more time, for it, they keep on reducing the balance. So it's against the money that you have. Whereas credit card, there's no money with you. You are just buying things and pay the bill when the bank sends you that. Does that explain?
Yes, it does. Now things like Google Pay and Apple Pay and stuff like that, you can just put your credit cards on your phone and just tap it anywhere you go.
You don't even need the card, you know. You
Yeah.
can just use your phones to transfer money.
Yeah. And when we use a card to buy something, how does money go from our account to the merchant's account?
Okay, so to understand the concept of money, everything in banking, you know, is digital. It's all accounting. There's no physical movement of money at all. Everything is just a record of Vedant bought this from this store, and Jessima bought this from this store, Divya bought this money from that store, and this is where they use the debit cards, credit cards, everything, every transaction that you do is all recorded. Okay, so there's no real exchange of money. So when you have, for example, you have debit or a credit card, your bank issues that card to you, and you can go to any outlet and use that, right? You can go to buy it, or at a grocery, at a restaurant, wherever you want, you use that. And all these are called merchants, the restaurant or the movie theater or the online banking, all the people who are selling or offering the services to you, these are called merchants or vendors, as you rightly said, right? You said they're all vendors. All these vendors are part of the credit card association. So usually we have this Visa. You would have seen a Visa card or a MasterCard, right? What card do you have?
I have a Visa card.
Visa card. So all these merchants or vendors are part of the Visa or MasterCard Bank Association, and they have a tie-up with all the banks. So wherever you use, whichever bank issued that card to you, as soon as you use, that money is transferred to the vendor from your account without actually you having to pay that money, right? So that money is transferred from your account to the vendor's account through the credit card association or the union that they have. It's so if you spent $50 at McDonald's, you get your invoice, right, saying Vedant spent 50 at McDonald's on 7th August 2021 for hot chocolate, and McDonald's gets that credit into their account through your bank immediately. As soon as you swipe that, everything is linked to your account.
Why is it important to save up money?
The cost and value of everything that you want to buy keeps changing, right? So does what you bought for 10 rupees long ago stay the same? I think cost of your Lego keeps going every year, right? Your Apple Watch goes up, your phone goes up, and there's so many things. The value keeps changing based on the demand and supply of that. So the more important thing about money is to increase its value. So let's understand that through a simple example. Suppose you get some $100 as your birthday gift, okay? And you save that in your home very safely. Give it to Divya, give it to Jessima, or put it in your own safe, and you keep looking at it maybe in 6 months or 1 year. What happens to that money? After
Um,
after 6 months or after 1 year, how much does that 100 become?
oh yeah, and then still 100 maybe.
It's still 100, right? Okay, you look at it after 2 years.
Still maybe 100.
Nothing happens to that paper note, right? It's not going to become less. It still remains. Maybe you can buy less things with that $100, but it still remains $100, right? So if you put, on the contrary, if you put that in a bank, which you said you don't want to, but if you put that in a bank and you invest, as we said earlier, whenever you put money in a bank, the bank gives you interest, right? So the bank keeps adding, because Vedant gave the bank $100, the bank gives you interest on that. So every year that interest gets added to your 100 rupees, and at the end of 1 year, it becomes 100 plus interest. At the end of second year, it becomes 100 plus 2 years of interest. At the end of 3 years, it becomes 100 plus another year. So when you save your money in a bank, you are able to multiply and increase the value of money. Unlike you put it in your house very safely, 1 year, 2 year, 10 year, even when you're 25, it'll still be $100. But if you put it in a bank, it keeps multiplying. No? So the importance and reason for saving is not just safekeeping, but also to increase or multiply the value of money.
Dear listeners, here is a story on how money grows when you save.
Listen to the story, okay?
Okay.
Long time ago, there was a king in India who loved to play games. He soon grew bored of all the games played at the time and wanted a new game that was challenging. He commissioned a poor mathematician who lived in his kingdom to come up with a new game. The mathematician invented the game of chess. When he showed it to the king, the ruler was so pleased that he gave the inventor the right to name his prize for the invention. The man, who was very wise, asked the king, "Your Highness, if you place just 1 grain of rice on the first square of this chessboard and double it for every square, I will consider myself well rewarded." "Are you sure?" asked the king, greatly surprised. "Just grains of rice, not gold?" "Yes, Your Highness," affirmed the humble man. "So it shall be," ordered the king, and his courtiers started placing the grain on the chessboard. 1 grain on the first square, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, 8 on the fourth, and so on. By the time they came to the 10th square, they had to place 512 grains of rice. The number swelled to 5,24,288 grains on the 20th square. When they came to the halfway mark, the 32nd square, the grain count was over 214 crores. Soon the count increased to lakhs of crores, and eventually the hapless king had to hand over his entire kingdom to the clever mathematician. And it all began with just 1 grain of rice. Never underestimate the power of compounding. It is sometimes called the 8th wonder of the world. Small amounts of money invested every month from the beginning of your work life can lead to a handsome payout at the time of your retirement.
That was really interesting.
Did you like it? This is what I wanted to show you,
Yeah, I really liked it.
Did you like it? Did you see how you can actually multiply your money, and by being aware of it and starting early?
And what you just said, like saving up for your future needs, it's like the ant and the grasshopper story, right?
Exactly. So
Okay.
I just told you, like, if you put 100 rupees in your safe, it's going to remain 100 as many years as you keep it, right? But if you invest, the bank will pay you 5%. So you get 105, then that 105 becomes 110, it becomes 116, 122, 128. But if you had put it in your safe at home, it'll still remain 100, right? If you have a small piggy bank at home, if you keep adding money to that, it just remains the same, right? If you add $10 to your 100, it just remains 110. It's not going to change. So just to um, make you understand how saving is important and how it keeps multiplying and growing, and that's the fundamental requirement of saving. The not just safe keep it, but also to increase or multiply the value.
Mm,
Okay.
My dad will take me to one of the banks in Singapore, DBS Bank, to get a bank account. Thank you so much for sharing the calculation with me. And also the importance of saving up money. Do you have any tips for my listeners on how to save?
Of course, for you and all your listeners.
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I want to tell all the listeners, all of you, that you have to start early, as young as you. So the fundamental logic of saving is that when you start early, you save more over a period than somebody who starts midway. So, for example, let me tell you, if you're Mr. A and you are starting to save money when you are 25 years, okay, and as you're just saving 5,000 a month, but when you retire, you will be getting 3 crores of rupees into your account. But if you want to have fun when you're young, you want to just blow up your money, you think, I have a lot of time to retire, let me first enjoy and then start saving when I'm 40. Then actually you have a job, you have more savings, you are investing 15,000 rupees a month. But still, when you retire, you will only have about 1 crore savings. You see, because you started early, you always save. You save 3 times more than somebody who started late. So that's the fundamental tip I want to give to everybody. And another tip is about disciplined spending. We spoke about credit cards, right? People have the tendency of buy now, pay later, because in a credit card, you don't have to pay money. Wherever you go, whatever you see, whatever you like, you can buy, right? You don't have to think, oh, I don't have the money to buy that. So you always have the comfort, I can buy now, I can pay later. No problem. Let me use my card. So you have to be very disciplined in that. And my tip is to all the credit card users is always stay in limit and pay up your money, pay up your bill in full. Don't pay it in installments because it accumulates a lot of interest, a huge amount of interest, and you end up paying much more than actually what you need to. Okay, because it gets a huge, just like you saw on your money is getting added when you give money to the bank. When you borrow also, your bill keeps mounting. So my tip is pay it on time.
You are involved in automation initiatives. What does automation mean in banking?
As we said, banking is so quickly evolving, and we have done away with so many things. We have done away with even money, which is the most important thing for a bank, was currency notes. Now you don't even need those currency notes, right? You are just using mobiles to transfer or using cards to transfer money. You don't even need the most important currency notes. So in future, we don't even need physical banks. You don't need to go to a bank. You can just sit in your home and transfer money like you're doing. You have so many wallets and apps now through which you can do banking. So we have done away with money, you have done away with offices. In future, we don't even need so many people in banking industry, You need, there are so many chatbots and robots that are working now that for common queries that earlier, if you wanted to know something about your bank, you will have to visit your bank, stand there in a line, wait for your turn, and then talk to somebody in the bank, find out how to do that. Now you're no longer required to do that. You can just type through your messaging app or on your. So when you're on browsing something about the bank, you get those chat messages, right? Can I help you? Do you want something? Have you seen those?
Yeah, actually, in my dad's company's website, there's one.
You see that, right? And
Yeah.
actually, those are all chatbots. Chatbot is a chatterbot. It's the one. It talks to you in your communication language. So if you type a query, it replies back to you, and it has a set of standard question and answers which most customers ask. So for all of it, instead of going to the bank or making a phone call, waiting in that queue to talk to somebody, your bots just answer. If it is a standard question and answer, they do that because they have access to all that information that is recorded. These are programmed on artificial intelligence, and they are taught, if this is the question, this should be your answer. So any standard questions, they are able to answer. Similarly, we have robots, they will be our co-workers. We already have in our team robots working along with us. They have names just like I have, just like Padma, Vedant, Divya, and Jesima. I have robots working with they have names. They also undergo training. They also process information just like we do. And they're sometimes faster, efficient. They do less errors because they're not distracted. So they don't need as many breaks as we need. They don't get as tired as we do, and they have no mood swings. They're always happy and cheerful. They have not many demands. So these are all new ways of coming. And we spoke about phone to phone transfer. There's something like qr code. You just scan something, you're able to pay. So these are all lot of new things that are coming into banking, and it's one of the most interesting and evolving industry. That is why we have said, along with curiosity, our future skills are creativity, innovation. If I say top three skills, it will be creativity, innovation, and curiosity, because that's what will help us design the future banking. Does that give you an idea?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for sharing about all this banking stuff. Now, let's move on to your hobbies.
Oh, I have many. As you have seen, I'm interested in professionally. I am into a lot of technical workshops that I that I create for people as part of my work. I train a lot of people on basic financial prudence and awareness, about banking products and how to use and save and multiply money. And additionally, I'm into something very diverse, like creative content for my musical events. You have been part of some. We have something called Radio with Rangans, and we have a Sukoon. These are all themed music shows for which I do the presentation and the creative direction for the work. We prepare the content format. And then I'm also interested in alternate healing, which is like first aid medicine for home before we actually go and see a doctor. I have I'm certified in Reiki and homeopathy. These are just basic first aid, energy, and natural healing mechanisms which I use just for the family to get well immediately. So it's a diverse range of interests. and I enjoy doing all my jobs equally with passion.
Those are lots of hobbies. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you, Vedant. I hope you enjoyed and got some learning, and you will start saving.
Yes, I already have started.
Wonderful. Pleasure talking to you.
Mhm.
All the best.
I learned a lot.
Thank you. All the best.
Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get updates on my upcoming episodes. To listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes, subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on curiousvedant.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant, and don't forget to rate and leave comments.